Hey everybody, Real World Prepper here. Just an update. Some things that I have found out, some things that probably undoubtedly many of you already know if we're watching this thing, this pandemic, whatever you want to call it. Firstly, let me say that they have officially, with Mrs. RWP's restaurant, they have officially announced that they're going to take out only, which means she now won't be working. They have sent everybody home at my job except for 1, 2, 8, 10, about 10 of us out of almost 60. I'm one of the ones that still gets to go. However, we have some what I consider to be fairly ridiculous things. I say ridiculous. I mean, they sound silly, but I suppose it's for the sake of not spreading this thing potentially if people come in with it. They've got us. We put up barriers today to keep customers from touching our counter, and we're supposed to set. I'm in the ag industry, and I sell things and equipment, and parts and things, and we're supposed to set this stuff outside and let them get it and charge stuff and not require signatures and all this. I really believe we should keep our eyes on this thing because I believe we are days away from being on a mandatory lockdown, a mandatory self-quarantine, whatever you want to call it, where I believe they're going to, everybody that's not essential, everybody that's not hospital health workers or police or fire, that kind of thing. I believe that we're days away from everybody being told to go home for probably a minimum of 2 weeks. This little stimulus thing that they're talking about doing, some people are going to get that, many won't, but it won't be enough, and it will probably come too late. I believe that a lot of the service industry jobs, such as restaurants, like where Mrs. RWP works, will not bounce back. Mainstream media, for what it's worth, is reporting that as much as a third of restaurants will go under and not come back. And I believe even if everything does come back online at some point, the ones that do sustain and are able to sustain and come back, people's minds are changed about how they're going to go about life. Consumers are anyway, and I believe that it will take a long time for it to come back to where it was, if it ever will. And I frankly, I don't think it will. I think this is a very deliberate effort. I do not discount in any way, seriousness of this virus. Italy has now overtaken China in deaths, if China is to be believed. And also, if China is to be believed, they're now claiming that they are now on the downslide of cases, and that they now have no new cases, and that things are now getting better in China, if you're to believe them. But it came at a cost. It came at a cost of their freedom. They locked down mandatorily in the same way that I believe they're going to do here in the States, in the same way that they've done in many parts of Italy. Mandatory where dissidence and non-compliance will not be tolerated, will be met with force. Deadly force if necessary. This is looking more like Germany in the 40s, right? 30s and 40s, in my opinion. And I'm not trying to sit here and spread fear and all this kind of stuff. I'm just telling it like I see it. So I want to read something here, an article. I say an article, an opinion that was written by somebody. Doesn't matter who it is. I just want to read this. I don't agree with every part of this. I'll explain as I go, but let me read this real quick. Pay attention, folks. There is much more going on here than what meets the eye. It is a coincidence that just when the economy is booming, yes, it was, the stock market is setting record highs, and it was. We're winning in trade wars. School shootings have stopped. Our nation is at peace. The Democratic Party is a disaster, and so is their likely nominee, Joe Biden. He hasn't had a chance. They're not about to let an outsider, such as Bernie, destroy their scheme. It looks like Trump is a sure bet for re-election after fending off 3 years of investigations and impeachment. Then, all of a sudden, this world crisis pandemic. Stock market tumbles. Companies are laying off employees. Everything is closed and canceled. Events are canceled. All kinds of things. CEOs of giant companies are resigning, and indictments are coming. Now they say there's a couple of ways that a president does not win re-election. Those ways are, 1, an unpopular war, and 2, a poor economy. So there's something larger, this person says, and I agree, there's something larger going on here that's driving this sudden outbreak right after Trump beats an impeachment. Especially the fact that the virus, originated in China, who we are in a global trade war with, brought on by Trump. Let's not forget Biden's backdoor deals with China as well. China does not want 4 more years of Trump either. It all seems rather convenient for the nations and opponents of our current president and economy 5 months before an election. Couldn't have hit at a more perfect time, wouldn't you say? When the Democrats are running out of campaign talking points and they really have nobody, and now they're down to 2, Biden and Bernie, and I mean, they didn't have anybody to begin with. So the Democrats running out of campaign talking points. There's no school shootings for them to complain about. There's no migrant caravans at the southern border. There's no fighting in Syria, or it's winding down, I should say. North Korea is not firing missiles, and Trump beats this sham of an impeachment. The coronavirus gave them the one last Hail Mary to try and point fingers at Trump with the clock winding down in 2020. Now, all that I pretty much agree with. Now, let me read the last paragraph of this thing, and I don't really necessarily agree with, and I'll explain why. So, here it goes. This is almost a perfect fascist playbook. Control the population with fear-mongering and panic. Control the media. Spread propaganda. And the fan favorite, disarm the population. Now, I agree with those. Sorry, but I don't think we're all going to die. Remember when Ebola was going to kill us and the media kept showing piles of body bags that were prepared for the fallout, then a month later it was totally forgotten. The common flu has killed more people this year already and the media is silent. A handful of deaths out of 320 million Americans, and we're in panic, tearing down our society and costing our economy billions in the wake. It all seems a little fishy and well-timed, a little too well-timed if you ask me. Now, what I disagree with in that statement is well, all right, let me rephrase that. I agree with that. Yes, currently the flu has killed more. And yes, currently, less than 200 deaths in the United States, if we're believing the reports, out of 320 million and so on and so forth. But if you watch the way it grew and went in China, and you watch the way it grew and went and is going in Italy, we're on the same model. So the writer of this thing that I just read, this opinion piece that I just read, their assertion is that it's not going to be anything bigger than that, but yet this is the big ruse that is going to cost Trump the election potentially, and throw us into this tailspin, blah blah blah, whatever. I believe that the virus is more than to be, that there's more to it for it than to be just sloughed off like, a big deal. It's not going to be anything, and everybody's panicking. Yes, the numbers are low currently in the United States. Yes, the country has gone nuts, and buying things out and store shelves empty and all of these things. But I do believe that the virus will kill more people. But more importantly, I do believe that the government has figured out how to control, they have figured out a roadmap of how to run us. They figured out that without, thus far, mandating anything, merely suggesting things with the state of emergency and all this kind of stuff, what is happening? These businesses are closing. Like I say, it's affecting, I guarantee you, all of us, whether or not you know somebody who has the coronavirus or know somebody who knows somebody that has the coronavirus, you all know somebody, if you yourself are not personally affected in your work. You're either working from home or you're not working, or you're working in one of these, health, police, fire, at a much greater risk. So those who haven't prepared, my heart goes out to you. I feel sorry for what's coming for you. Those who have prepared, frankly, I worry for you guys too, myself included, because for as much as we prepare, there are few of us that are prepared to just be able to say, okay, let the world burn and I'm going to be all right. I would love to be in that position. I mean, I don't want to see the world burn, but I would love to be in the position to know that I could go, without worrying about it. But quite frankly, we're not there. Yeah, we could shut the doors to sustain for a good while. But when that runs out, currently we don't have a backup. We thought here in the RWP household that if Trump got reelected, that we'd have 4 more years to kind of continue to build the infrastructure here on our would-be homestead to be able to reproduce food and pull our water and sustain ourselves in part, if not 100%. That was the ultimate goal. Still is. I mean, that goal has not changed. I just believe it's going to be much harder, if not impossible, how it goes. So just a little update I wanted to share with you. Please, you guys, take all the care and precaution that you can. Take this thing seriously. Don't live in fear, but definitely be cautious. Be paying attention. And more than anything, pray that God Almighty protects His people. That God Almighty continues to provide for us the way that He does, that He doesn't, that He holds true as He does, that He won't give us anything greater than what we can handle, and that we will persevere through this storm, because it's going to be a long and devastating storm, I believe. So that's really all I got for you guys right now. I appreciate you guys watching Real World Prepper. If I can do anything for anybody, offer any kind of support, prayer support, you want to ask me any questions, anything like that, email, P.O. Box, Patreon, all in the About section, whatever. Just holler at me, comment on this video or whatever. Guys, they've figured out a way to do it, haven't they? I mean, if you really look at it, they have figured out how to do it. I've even said that it's possible that the election maybe even be suspended, depending on how this goes. But you watch, in the next handful of days, I'm going to say 7 to 10 tops, there will be a mandatory shutdown of this country. Real World Prepper. See you next time. Maybe.